So the way this works is like, again, money flows into PulseChain and then into Hex. Money flows out of Hex into PulseChain and then into stables. So it's because they're moving together because of that $20 million of liquidity that's binding them together. And so in the same way, Pulse is tied to everything else in the ecosystem. And that kind of makes it more valuable because it decreases slippage and makes the total TVL in the entire ecosystem more. So like this number here of liquidity showing you $112 million of liquidity on PulseX in the pools on V1, and then on V2 there's another almost 10 million. So you got like 131 million across these two versions of PulseX. So there's $131 million of value. And then again, according to GoPulse, there's $92 million of bridged in value. So $92 million is backing the remainder $30 million, $40 million of value sitting in these pools. So like that, the way that works out is you have 130, let's see here, 100, let's say $120 million of value backed by $92 million of like stable bridged in value. So the net difference is that like 30 million, right? And that 30 million is what the PulseX, Hex from PulseChain, and all the other non-stable units of account are worth based on their dollar price. So it's kind of a cool setup. It works well because you pump one, you pump all. You have other tokenomics and factors bleeding in there. That's like the PulseX buy and burn, which is helping support and lift up the system at all times, buying and burning based on transaction volume. So it's all kind of like helping the ecosystem mitigate sell pressure and help prop the system up and keep it inflated.
Amazing to see some of these stats. Yeah, the value's there. Is there, when you think about, do you have any targets for where you're looking as far as value or TVL locked in the Pulse chain or volume? Like are there any metrics or things that you look for that are signs for things going better or worse for that?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to see is more value being deposited onto the Pulse chain bridge, or more bridges open up and more value get deposited there. And then that value gets deployed. So stablecoins, wrapped ETH, wrapped BTC gets deployed and pushes the prices of these other assets up through the act of buying. I think that's like the goal. And so one thing I've been looking at, was like I would go to like these TVLs on Uniswap and look at kind of what it's been like. If you go back to, so if you look at the total TVL on the Ethereum side over here during the bull run last cycle, you can see that this TVL has just continued to climb. And I think like when you start to see more and more value get deposited on the bridge, you're going to see that capital is then deployed. Now, this is in a bullish environment, but you're going to see this value be deployed and push up the prices of, like native assets like PulseChain, PulseX, Inc., some of the others, Hedron, Icosa, some of the others. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is like that the value stays on there and you don't see these net outflows of just fiat extraction or stable value extraction. But again, like this is all happening because, crypto risk is off on the macro, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the macroeconomic space that's putting pressure on the liquidity the whole economy has because of increased prices to live in the real world. And so it's definitely not going to come into crypto yet, right? And so we're kind of waiting for that quantitative easing or that easing in monetary policy to really give us the momentum to really kind of see the value be deposited back into PulseChain. Because as it stands, Ethereum is still the #1 EVM network, right? And so that's basically, you're going to see these TVLs like base out like they are here on Ethereum side. Perhaps this will be a leading indicator when these start to increase. Some of those profits may flow across the bridge into other opportunities on Pulse. Or, as we said earlier, maybe, as Sami alluded to, maybe we'll see, funds get deposited beforehand and PulseChain actually starts to bull market. And who's going to do that is going to be an exchange, like a billionaire class player, or at least, 9-figure player that can like bring in enough money to jumpstart and ignite the ecosystem. And what that looked like before the PulseChain fork happened in the Hex world, when there was just one asset, was about $150 million would have been enough to absorb all of the weak hand money at the lows and kind of like ignite that bull market. But we're just in a different phase right now, and now things are changing with the dollar and the stock market and things. So we're gonna have to let this stuff play out over the next 3 to 4 months, and then hopefully next year we can start on a new foot.